In this lesson, we're going to be creating a Node file and also running it. So going through how you can create your first Node file and then execute it on your computer. And also the terminal setup, accessing Node and running Node with terminal, and then also useful tools such as the console log, which we are going to be using quite a lot. And that's a command that you can use in Node in order to output something into the terminal so you can see what's going on within your application. And it's also very helpful for debugging. So we're going to be making use of that in the upcoming lessons. So let's write our first Node application. So if you are familiar with JavaScript, then you might be familiar with console log. And if you're not familiar, what console log does is this is a method calling the console, and within the console object, there's a method called log. And what this does is this outputs content into the console. So when we type in something, so if I was to just say hello world within the console and save it, this is going to be saving it as a JS application, so app1.js. Now, in order to run a Node application, this is going to be slightly different than your standard JavaScript, where the JavaScript relies on an HTML file in order to run the JavaScript within it, within the browser. We need to have another way to run this code, and the way that we're going to be doing it is with the terminal. So that's how you can run your Node files and open up the terminal with a new terminal. And that's the nice thing about Visual Studio Code, is that we do have the terminal directly within the editor. So I'm going to just close that first bash. So I just got the one bash that I've got here. And this is going to be listed out within that same folder because we are using the same workspace. If you are using a separate terminal, then you're going to have to navigate over to where you've got the app1.js file located. On a Mac, you can press LS to list out the files in the current directory. So make sure that file is sitting there. On a Windows machine, if you're using the command prompt, dir will list out the directory. And the dir is not going to work on a Mac. So in order to run the file, we've over to the same location of where the file is, and we type in node and then the file that we want to run. So this one is called app1.js. So we run the code and we get returned back within the terminal the words hello world. So the terminal is where the console output is being placed. And this can be thought of as similar to the terminal that you get within the developer tools whenever you're using your browser. So you can open up, I'm on a Chrome browser and I'm just clicking anywhere, press control click on a Mac, or right click anywhere on open space on a Windows machine, or you can go to the three dots in the top right hand corner, click inspect, and that's going to open up the terminal for the browser. And then within here, if you were to type in that same set of instructions, which is the console log hello world, it will output that content into the browser window there. So it'll run the code and output it into the browser window. So let's also update the view, where we're going to update the appearance, and we're going to move the panel to the right hand side screen. So we'll have the terminal on the right, the code and the left hand side, so it's easier for viewing throughout the upcoming lessons. And then of course, if you change any of the values that are within the console message, you rerun the code, the node app1.js, it's going to output the new message of test into the console. So within the JS file, we're writing JavaScript code, but this is running on the server side, locally within the machine, and it doesn't actually need a browser in order to run the JavaScript code. And the reason why is that it uses the same V8 engine that your browser uses in order to run the JavaScript code, and we're going to be talking more about that in the upcoming lesson.